everyone, it's my great honor to stand here to introduce. Semantics is the study of the meaning of words and sentences. This subject deals with the interpretation of individual words, the structure of some sentences, and the interpretation of text. A correct understanding of semantics over all subjects in all language, because a clear understanding allows students and teachers to communicate their message clear without fear of misunderstanding. Semantics explains the different types of the meaning that exist in a language, providing insight into how one builds competence and understanding in that language. In this assignment, our topic is entailment. In semantics and programmatics, entailment is the principle that the truth of one proposition guarantees the truth of another under certain condition. It's also called straight salience. Logic salience and semantic salience. We will talk about how semantics can improve students' understanding of meaning and synthesis relationship. How is it related to entailment, and how can we implement this knowledge in So let me tell you how semantics to help the student understanding of the words and the structure of sentences and the context. Semantics is very important for language. Without it, language has no real structure. So if we can learn semantics, we can make the sentences clear, so the listener and the can clear to how the sentence what's the meaning. There are very effective ways to understand the meaning of the words in semantics. Entailments, synonyms, and homonyms. There are three aspects are very effective in enabling students to understand the meaning of the words. For example, entailments. When the teachers teach the words the beautiful, and so the students can know that its opposite is ugly, which will increase their vocabulary and help them understand the words better. As for the synonyms, it can also can increase the students' vocabulary, because the same meaning have the same different words, just like the good. The good can and good and the nice is the synonyms. For the homonyms, which can tell the students know the different meaning of the same words, such as the my friend lift and the chair lift. The lift is a different meaning but the same words, so it also can improve the students' vocabulary and make them to more understanding the sentences structure and the context, the article context. So there are very effective ways. And the synonyms, entailments, and homonyms are not only helpful for students to understand the vocabulary, but also for understanding context of structure relationship. Inside we have the more the ways to help the student to understand the structure is entailment. Entailment is also very important for students to understand sentences and articles. Examples: the proposition is last night the prince killed the king for the so we can know the next night the king dead. So when students master the entailment, they can better understand the synthesis relationship and context. Therefore, semantics plays an important role in helping the students understand the relationship of words and
Firstly, semantics explains how sequences of languages are matched with their appropriate meaning. Next, semantics also decides meaning and how meaning is related to the patterns of a sentence. So, semantics helps us to decide which words are suitable to be used when somebody wants to convey a certain meaning through a sentence. So, when somebody has knowledge in semantics, this will able to help them in distinguishing which words are appropriately used, and so
Hi everyone! Today I'm going to present about the relationship between teaching semantics and improving ESL learner skills. Okay. The first relationship is teaching semantics can ensure that the students get and know the idea or knowledge of the language. Why do I say so? For ESL learners, we all know that they are more exposed to English in a class-oriented way, right? So, through learning the rules that exist in English, they understand the sequence and patterns of English to make a sentence. While the sentence may be grammatically correct, they may produce sentences that are illogical or doesn't suit the description of a certain situation. For example, we know that rage and anger are synonyms, right? If they understand the difference between them, which is rage is a stronger emotion than anger, they can use it correctly. However, if they don't, they may use it both of them in a situation which might cause misunderstanding. While the person is only angry and suddenly the person says he is in a rage, it's totally different. So, in a sense, we need to speak appropriately, and by being able to speak appropriately or write appropriately, we need to understand the meaning of the words, right? Okay. The next example is if the teacher asks the students, can you erase the words while looking at the whiteboard? The teacher is trying to say that please clean the whiteboard, right? However, if the students cannot understand it, they might erase the words in the notebook. If they understand it, they will do the action. So, in a sense, if we understand the meaning of a sentence, we can easily interpret what is discussed in class. Therefore, teaching semantics is very important and in improving ESL learner skills by ensuring that ESL learners get the idea and knowledge of the language. Okay, when they are able to understand the language, ESL learners will be able to use it to communicate using the language, right? So the next relationship that I want to talk about is teaching semantics can ensure that ESL learners learn to communicate using the target language. Okay, without conversation, it does not mean that you are acquiring the language. When we are able to understand the words, we will apply it to our conversation and make logical sentences that others can understand what are you talking about. Other than that, semantics also involve learning word phrases, idioms, metaphors. These components makes our speech or our writing interesting. But we need to be able to understand them truly, the meaning, or else if we misuse it, it will become another way around. While being able to understand all this and use it in our daily conversation or our writing, it makes our message clear as well as attractive. Hence, teaching semantics can ensure that students improve their way of conveying their messages clearly as well as attractively. Okay, the last relationship is teaching semantics can improve ESL learners' use of language in terms of politeness. I'll directly go to the example which is more clear. For example, in Malay, we can use kenapa or apa, which means what, to say that we are uncertain with something, right? However, if we use what in English, it becomes, if we use what as a sign of uncertainty, it is considered rude English. This is because what, in terms of English, if you say that you need further clarification, it seems like you are irritated with the speaker. Okay. However, in Malay, it's not the same, right? In English, no, don't use it. Instead of using what, we use pardon me to say that we need further clarification. So there's never a certainty in English or even any other language in terms of culture and environment. If we understand the meaning in that language, then we can avoid doing these mistakes that displease others. Hence, teaching semantics can improve learners' ability of using the language politely. Therefore, we cannot deny the fact that teaching semantics and improving ESL learner skills are interrelated. They support each other and helps in creating ESL learners which are academically smart as well as socially experts. Okay, that's all for this part. So I'll continue. Okay, now I'll talk about the importance of entailment in semantics for teachers and students. Entailment, as we all know, that it is the relation of two sentences where the truth of the second sentence necessarily follows the truth of the first sentence. In other words, if P is true, then Q necessarily follows the truth of P. Hence, P entails Q. Get it? Okay. So, entailment is also a way to identify semantic features and to determine the truth or falsity of an utterance. A semantic theory can predict the relation of entailment if and only if all of the sentences whose truth follows the truth of the main sentence. Okay, so from the start, philosophers and logicians were the ones that paid more attention to the truth or false of a sentence compared to linguists. This may be due to diplomacy, where they have the art of concealment thought, and we may not know that if a person is saying the whole truth or not. Okay, so why is it important for teachers and students then? Okay, entailment it's important for teachers to know that if the students understand a certain topic or not, and also for students to know if they themselves understand the topic or not. For example, the teacher writes, John killed Mary and Mary died on the whiteboard. And the teacher asks the students, did Mary get murdered? They should give a positive response if they understand what they were talking about. If they cannot relate murder and someone killing someone, then they don't understand what the teacher is talking about. Hence, in a way, entailment is important as a test arranged for students to know that if they understood the topic or not. If we can relate the meaning of a sentence with another context and they are really related, that means we understand it. Okay? Is that clear? I hope it is clear. Okay, the next importance is ensuring the students able to draw logical inferences. Why is that so? I give you an example. The teachers say the sky is blue and it is raining. Let me ask you, is that logical? No, right? So, entailment, in a way, it helps students to relate logical things. Okay, if we assume that P is the sky is blue and Q is it is raining. If we use common knowledge, and these two sentences will never be together, so the sentence, the whole proposition becomes a false, right? Hence, learning entailment, we help the student develop their critical thinking, let them think logically about the sentence, and not just write it without any logic in it. Because if there's no logic, and the meaning is astray, I don't think that brings any understanding for all of us. In conclusion, entailment is important for teachers and students to know their level of understanding towards a certain topic, as well as develop their thinking skills so that they can draw logical inferences in order for them to give good opinions. And in conclusion, entailment is important for teachers and students to let them know that if they understand about the topic or not, as well as let them develop their thinking skills so that they can make logical inferences to be able to distinguish between two or more subjects logically and not mix. Okay, so hence, in conclusion, entailment is important for teachers and students. First, for them to understand their own level of understanding, to let them know that if they understand the topic or not. And the second is help them develop their critical thinking skill in drawing logical inferences so that they can give opinions that are logic and also good. I think that's all from
In general, what do we understand about ESL learner? Well, ESL learner are individuals whose primary language is not in English. So in order for these ESL learner to reach fluency in English, we found that there is evidence that suggests that we should teach entailment to this ESL learner. But why do you think ESL learners should study about entailment? What is entailment? Entailment is a concept that refers to a specific kind of relationship between two sentences. Entailment means that if one sentence is true, then the following sentence must be true as well. The second sentence entails the first sentence. Another way to demonstrate if there is entailment between two sentences is, if the first sentence is false, then the following sentence must be false as well. Entailment relates closely to logical consequences. Within logic, the idea of when if A is false, then B is false is nothing other than a form of entailment. With entailments, ESL learners will be able to understand the meaning of a logical structure and consequence. They will be able to decipher the utterances mentioned in English just by understanding its logical consequence. Without entailments, however, ESL learners will not be able to detect and differentiate and know how this English language works in actual conversations and in living situations. For example, if I were to say that the fluffy cat is white and then say that the cat is loud, then it simply turns the sentence to be gibberish and irrelevant, as the concept of entailment does not exist for that sentence. Another valid argument that supports that teaching entailment is important for ESL learners is that entailment helps develop ESL learners' literacy skill. With the help of studying entailment, ESL learners will be able to understand and have a wider vocabulary skill, as they can connect the dots between one word to another just from what entails it. For example, the princess has been murdered during her coronation ceremony. And the next sentence, the princess is dead. So from this example, we can understand, and the ESL learners can understand, that from the word murdered itself entails that the princess is dead. So they understood that just from the meaning murdered, which ends with the person dying, then you can say that the princess is dead. Other than that, teaching entailment to ESL learners are also important because it allows these ESL learners to be able to sort the connections between various sentences and its context and relation more successfully than before. For example, if someone were to say, "She have a blue pen," then the ESL learner will be able to entail from the first sentence that she have a pen. Now let's give a second example. Mia is Milky's mother. This simply means that if Mia is Milky's mother, then Milky is Mia's daughter. This kind of prompt simply is explaining that if X, then Y. If A, then B. If B, then C. If one sentence is true, then the following sentence must be true as well. And if the other sentence is false, then the following sentence must be false as well. Sadly, most classroom teachers does not have the proper material to teach this entailment because they usually just depend on the existing academic textbooks that had been given in the schools. Hence, teachers should be more aware of how this teaching entailment approach is important to ESL learner because it helps ESL learner to gain proficiency and fluency in English in a much greater and faster rate.
Good day everybody, my name is Glinda Mainor and I will present the contribution of the study of semantics to solving the difficulty of students in meaning. The strategies that can be used to teach entailments are group activity, class discussion, and task-based methods. So, in using the group activity to let the students learn about entailments, firstly, group activities will help students and give chance to them to think critically among themselves, and group activities will also help them in their cooperation with each other. So, in using the group activity to teach entailments, firstly, the teacher can divide the students into a few groups, or the students can divide themselves and choose their own groups. So, they will discuss among themselves about the concept of entailments, and then the teacher will give them a few sentences and ask them to determine whether the sentences are entailments of each other or not. So, group activities will usually end in presentation where the representatives of the group will come to the front and explain about their understanding of the concept of entailments. Next is through the class discussion method. So by using the class discussion method, the teacher will choose a moderator among the students. So when the teacher chooses a moderator among the students, this moderator is tasked to choose other students to explain on their questions regarding the topic of entailments. The teacher, on the other hand, will be explaining when it is really necessary. And by using this method, by using the class discussion method, the students are encouraged to speak and they have to be focused in class. They are not allowed to slack off because who knows when
Assalamualaikum everyone, I am Jeyachitralekha and I will be presenting about the teaching plan. So first thing first, what is a teaching plan? A teaching plan is a document that contains detailed information about how the class or lesson can be conducted by the teachers. Why is a teaching plan needed? Because it is to help and guide the teachers to teach their students effectively, so the lesson can be obtained by the learners or students effectively. Okay, let's look at the objective first, because every lessons or classes there is an objective that needed to be fulfilled. Therefore, that is why a teaching plan is needed, because without a teaching plan there will be no medium to know if whether the teacher have already meet the objective of the lesson. Okay, so with the teaching plan that we have agreed on, which is first thing first, of course, with the title of entailment as our topic for the class. So we come up with an objective, which is the students are able to identify entailment sentences and how can they relate the relationship between these entailments from Pro A to Pro B or Pro B to Pro A. Okay, now let's have a look at the procedure. We have come up with 3 procedures. So the first procedure is when the teacher already in the class, after the teacher greets the students and have gathered all the intentions, all the their attentions, then the teacher can start with introducing the key concept entailment. Okay, it is called as an icebreaker so that the students can have a grasp of what is the topic that they are going to learn. Okay, now let's look at the second procedure. After giving an very brief explanation on what entailment is, the teacher can move on with dividing the classes in groups. Okay, so after the groups are formed, then the teacher can ask these groups to create sentences, of course entailment sentences, and they need to prepare the answer as well. So after that, they can discuss between groups and ask the answer for their sentences that they have created. Okay, that is the second procedure. And after this discussion between groups, then the teacher can give more explanation about what is an entailment, because the students already have not better understanding, but an understanding of what entailment is. Okay, now let's look at the third procedure. The third procedure is about teacher giving the students individual tasks, which is exercises on entailment, to look and see whether the students have already mastered or understand this topic. Okay, so as for the closing, before the end of the class, a reflection should be done. Okay, this reflection is about asking the students what they have learned in the class, and this is to see also whether the class have already fulfilled the aim or objective of the lesson. Okay, that is for the lesson plan. And as for the teaching materials, of course, the exercises that the teacher provide. Okay, and then after that, let's move on with the conclusion. So as for the conclusion, semantics is the core subject for our course. So and entailment is also under semantics, right? So we already know that semantic deals with words, the meaning of words. It is the study of the meaning of the words, phrases, or sentences. So why is entailment in the semantic? It is because entailment sentences may be in one phrase or sentence, but they can be different meanings and interpretations about the entailments. That is why entailment is also very important and must be taught. Okay, now let's move on with the teaching plan conclusion. So teaching plan, it does not have to include every details, like every dialogue that the possible dialogues that the teacher and the students will have in the class. Okay, it does not have to be so specific like that, but it should have a possible outcome or preparations or the learning activities that they will have in the class. The teachers will need to have an image of what the class is going to look like, so that it can run smoothly, because with a teaching plan, as I said before, the aim or objective of the class will not be fulfilled. I think that's all from us. Thank you, everyone.